everyone, and welcome to our next installment of the GEMA Talks vidcast series. We are thrilled today to have with us alumnus Chris Williams. Chris, hello today.
How you doing?
Good, good. Chris is a prolific and accomplished actor, comedian in Hollywood. He's had a terrific career. He's also a stand-up, and he's also a professional magician. So I'd like to say he's a jack of all trades, master of all of them. Incredibly impressive, versatile guy. And really excited to talk to Chris today about his life and career journey. He's had a really interesting arc to his career as someone who's in the performing arts and as an actor. You know, not the most conventional track that he took, you know, like having gone to Georgetown and the like. So he'll talk a lot about that today. And I'm also excited to talk about his probably most famous role as Krazee-Eyez Killa in a very famous, very famous Curb Your Enthusiasm episode. So we'll certainly talk about that today too. So first off, Chris, thank you for being here. And how are you during these bizarre times?
I'm actually pretty good. I've been really trying to improve on taking these 3 months to really improve myself and reset. A lot of times you don't take the time to work out, or you're rushing around. I'm rushing around auditioning and doing all kinds of different things. And this has been a really nice time for me to just sit back and evaluate what I need to be doing for myself. And so I worked out for like 128 days straight. I've lost like 15 pounds. I've been eating right. I've been cooking a little bit. I've been creative and trying to be as creative as possible. And it's been a really nice reset for me. Therapy, I've been doing video therapy, which has been helpful. And, you know, I've tried to use this time as productively as possible.
Yeah, yes, no, not everybody is able to keep that success up over months and months. So kudos to you for doing it.
Thanks. Yeah, and it's as an actor, you're constantly auditioning for things, and you're constantly getting rejected and worrying about what the next job is and why this person got a job and this job and you didn't get the job. And so since no one's working, it's been a nice just breathing moment to be able to like, okay, you know, what's going on. Right. And I'm on a new show called Upload on Amazon Prime, and we shot that about 2 years ago actually. And seeing myself on screen, I was like, oh, you have a little bit of a tummy. You need to do something about that. So I was like, let me just try to see if I can fit in my old clothes again.
And so there is some auditioning going on. It's just, but obviously more virtual. Like there are some things you're doing from an audition standpoint.
Well, my voiceover stuff, I also do voiceover work for cartoons and animated films, and that has been pretty consistent. You know, I've been actually getting a good amount in the last month, especially since companies have started up again. And I had a commercial audition last week, which was a Skype audition, and then a Zoom callback, which was an interesting process of you know, seeing everybody judging you in little black boxes as opposed to their face.
Yeah, it's a different vibe.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'd love to do the sort of the Chris Williams story here, because I think it's really, as I said, really compelling and interesting. Talk to me about your upbringing. You know, were you someone as a kid who was in performing arts as a young kid? Is it something you always knew you wanted to do? Tell me a little about your background, where you grew up, and all of that.
I'm from Westchester, New York, a town called Chappaqua, Millwood, where the Clintons live right now.
Yeah. And
it's a hamlet 45 minutes outside the city. So we had access to the city a lot. We could go in there and see shows. My parents, both music teachers. Yeah. So we've been exposed to the arts. My sister is Vanessa Williams. So we've been exposed to the arts from a very young age. And I did my first play at 3, where I played a mop that married a Raggedy Ann doll. And that's when I knew. I was like, wait, acting can get you women? I was like, oh, wait a second. And so yeah, so I went to Horace Greeley High School. It's one of the best public schools in the country, and so many people from the entertainment business went to my high school. It's a
Is that
public
right?
high school in the middle. Yeah, the Stengel brothers, who were head writers on Letterman Show,
Mm.
Heather Page Kent, Danny Buckatinsky won an Emmy for Scandal, and so a lot of people from my high school, for some reason, have gone on to do incredible things. So we had a really good arts program in my high school, theater, and so I did a lot of that stuff in summer school, summer theater as well. And then I was going to go and throw it all away and become a sports broadcaster.
Okay.
And so I applied to Syracuse University, which is the number one communication school. For the Gumbles went there, and Bob Costas. And if you're going to go to a school, you want to go to
That
Syracuse
is the
for that kind of thing.
for sure.
And then I realized my sister became Miss America when I was like 15 years old. So I was like,
What was that like?
yeah, well, I mean, there's always sibling rivalry. With all kids have sibling rivalry, and we would kind of compete with each other. She was just far enough ahead of me, 4 years, just far enough ahead of me where she would blaze an incredible trail, and I'm like, okay, that's my turn. Let me see what I can do. And like, she was middle school president, then I had to be middle school president, and then she was doing. Then I'm going to do this. So when it came to her winning Miss America, it was funny when I saw her win it. I was like, I had no doubt. I was like, "What? She's gonna win this. Watch." I was like, "Oh, she's gonna win." And then she won. I was like, "You know what? See, now what? I gotta lift weights. I've become Mr. America." You know what I mean? So, so when it came time to go to college, uh, it was Newhouse all the way at Syracuse, and then I was like, I wanted to blaze my own path, so to speak.
She also went to
Oh, sorry, yeah, she went to Syracuse as well. She's an alumna. So I was like, I don't think I could take another 4 years of being my sister's brother and purposely taking the path, following her path.
Yeah.
Even if it's not the same path, it's still the same direction.
Right.
And so I threw all caution to the wind, and I went south, and I became a Hoya, which is much better than a Syracuse, an Orange. And it's warmer too down in Georgetown.
No doubt.
So I just chose the best school that I knew, and I loved the basketball team. So I went to Georgetown, and it was just a broad liberal arts school. I was in the college, and I was a psychology major. And
so when you were there at that point, you were maybe not thinking as much, I'm going to go into the arts. You said, maybe I'm going to have a different type of career.
Yeah. So I didn't know exactly what I was going to be doing. So I just wanted to go to the best school possible, and Georgetown's an amazing school. And I got a full scholarship to Morehouse University as well.
Oh, wow.
In Georgia. But I didn't know if I could make the transition from going to a predominantly white school of 20 kids out of 1,200 in my high school were African American, and we were the first African American family in my town.
Wow.
So even though I grew up in that, I was born and lived my entire life in Millwood, Chappaqua, the transition for me to go to an all-black school would have been challenging for me, I think. I mean, it may not have been, but
I can understand.
I wanted to make a smoother transition for myself. And Georgetown and Atlanta was far further than Georgetown as well. So, I wanted to go to a great school, and Georgetown really gave me the opportunities to study. I would never have studied a year of theology and a year of philosophy as a requirement, and making sure that you had a language requirement as well.
Right.
Most schools don't have those type of have that curriculum.
Right.
And I've always thanked Georgetown for my education, obviously, because it's given me as an actor, it's given me such a breadth of knowledge that I would not have normally had access to, and given me more advantages if I need to play a gangster rapper, or even going to play a professor, or playing something that would not necessarily be that would take a little more a knowledge, or that my education has fueled that.
So you think it's allowed you to be, in some ways, have that versatility? that maybe others
Yes.
haven't had.
Yeah. And if you look at my roles, I played a transvestite with Anthony Hopkins in The World's Fastest Indian, to, a gangster rapper, to a crackhead in Friday After Next. I've done a wide range of roles. So I think Georgetown has really given me a platform where that I could grow from. And I didn't even really count on becoming an actor or becoming a performer when I was in Georgetown. I just wanted to let the education flow. And I studied at the Villa for my junior year.
Oh, the full year. The
Yeah.
full year.
No,
Wow.
I was on there for a semester.
Okay.
Last semester.
That must
And
have been an amazing experience.
that really, I really think, solidified my love of the arts and art. And I started writing poetry. I read some of it's really, really bad, but it was heartfelt. It was I just found some of it recently. It was really heartfelt. But it was so inspiring to see. Like, I walked into the Villa. If you've never been to the Villa, have you been?
I've been there once. Yeah, I've been there once.
I remember walking in the first day as a junior, obviously, and I walked in, and it was like 7, 8 in the morning. We just got off the train. I'm dragging my duffel bag in, and you go into there's a lemon grove and an orange grove. And I walked in there, and you look out over Florence, because it's in Fiesole, which is 8 kilometers outside of Florence. And you look out over the vista, and all you see was the Duomo and just mist and the colors of the sunrise. And I was like, oh, this is why the Renaissance happened here. I'm like, oh, it makes complete sense, because that is a painting. It was incredibly, I get chills thinking about, and my time at the Villa was, and now the Villa has about 30 students, because, it's expensive to be there and to upkeep. And we only had 12 students.
Wow.
So it was a really hands-on, immersive experience, that learning Italian, traveling, and going to different places, and studying the art, and actually going to see the art. Masaccio's triptych is like, oh, wow. Oh, now I get what it looks like. Or you could really get a sense of it. So, I always encourage people in college to travel abroad, if you have, to study abroad, if you have a chance to.
Yeah.
But it really opened up my love of the arts again. And I learned Italian as well. So, for the requirement at Georgetown, I took Spanish and then Italian. So I would not have had that without Georgetown.
Right.
And then when I graduated, I was like, well, what do most people that, go to Georgetown do? They go to biz school, they go to law school, or they go to med school, or something along those lines. And I was like, okay, well, let me apply to law school. And I applied to Georgetown Law, and I was like, let me defer a year and take a little time. And then my sister was living in Los Angeles. And I was like, but I want to live in LA for like a year, just to, and then, yeah.
1 year.
So exactly. So let me just go, deferring Georgetown Law, and go to California. And 2 weeks after I graduated, Michael Thomas and I, who was my roommate, my freshman year roommate, we drove out to Los Angeles. And it's been, I say I've been here temporarily for 32 years. Any decade I'll go back. But
even when you got to LA, right? It was there's still those early years are interesting, winding path, right?
Exactly. I lived with Michelle Kenvin, who was a cheerleader. I was a cheerleader at Georgetown for
All
3
right.
years, and was one of the greatest experiences for me, because I was going to be yelling and screaming anywhere at the games. So I might as well have the best seats in the house. So that's the only really performing that I did at Georgetown. Oh, and by the way, the whoosh, when you make a free throw at Georgetown,
Yeah.
that was me. I brought that to Georgetown. Thank you.
Wow.
That's my legacy. That's my legacy, and that's
Sure.
what I give. I give back to Georgetown.
I want to ask how much the checks are that you get every month for that.
Exactly. And I was the first Black male cheerleader at Georgetown. So
Is that right?
blazing trails. But so I was a cheerleader for those 3 years, and I didn't really do a lot of theatrical things. There was Mask and Ball. I didn't do any of those, but there was I did think one play with the Black Theater Association. I forgot what the name of it was, but nothing really in terms of my career, what my career ended up being. So I deferred for a year, and came out to Los Angeles. And then I was a car salesman for 9 months. I was #1 salesman of my first month. I have to say that. I got my name in the
Not,
paper
I'm not
like that.
surprised. I'm not.
But then after, 8, I'm like, you really want to be a car salesman? All my friends are going to biz school or, you know, I'm like, you need to do something else. So then I started working in the record industry,
Hmm.
and I was doing A&R and promotions for Mercury Records, Mercury Wing Records, and worked with some R&B groups, and I thought that's would be a great career for me. And then I was like, well, maybe I can be an entertainment lawyer specializing in music. And I was like,
Right.
I did not want to be a lawyer. I just didn't want to be a lawyer. So I did that for a number of years, and I did a play. I always had the bug of acting. I missed it, and I did a play at the Los Angeles Theater Center, and a bunch of the people who were in the play, even Cheryl Underwood, who was on a show called The View, and other people that were working. And I had fun with it, and they're like, well, are you going to do this, or are you just like, is it fun for you? And I'm like, I didn't want to be poor. I mean, like, because basically, if you're an actor, you have to give everything up and do that. And I was like, I made the decision. I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I was 25 at the time, which is, not long in the tooth for starting to be a professional actor. But if I was going to do it, that was going to be, I had to do it. It was now or never.
Now or never. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did something that was, I don't recommend to any young actors or anyone pursuing something. What I do recommend is believing in yourself enough where you can fund yourself. and and what I did, as an actor, you have to be available, especially as a young actor, and as scrambling to get any audition, any job, and every audition you get, you have to go on because you never know when it's going to leave.
Right.
And I started funding my acting career with my credit cards.
Hmm.
And as long as I saw forward progress towards my goal, as long as I was moving forward, I would keep funding it. And
Your point was, therefore, I didn't have to be in a 9 to 5 job and have to say no to some of these auditions.
right,
You
it's
had that flexibility.
very hard. Yeah, it's very hard. You're working, and at 10:30 you have an audition. You say, I've got to leave to go to audition. Like, no, no, you have a job. So, and also be able to concentrate on the
The craft.
craft and
Yeah.
taking classes and staying up, or stand up comedy, or being late at night. It's
Networking.
exhausting. All of it. So, yeah. So one thing was a saving grace is commercials. I did a lot of commercials, which was really helped my career for the first 5, 6, 7 years of my career. They say an overnight sensation is 8 years. Because an overnight success takes about eight years. And so I did 4 to 5, 6 commercials a year, national commercials, and they paid enough where I could keep on going.
Let
But
me
in the
ask you.
meantime,
Let me ask you a question about that. How were
yeah,
because your parents were in the arts? How did they react to this career decision? Were they saying you're insane, or did they say we support you all the way? Or geez, how come you're not going to go to
they
law
said it's
school? Or,
it's your life. You do it.
okay,
Of course, my mother would love me to be a lawyer because it's safe and stable, and this,
right,
that, and the other. But my sister was already in the entertainment business, and she was doing her own thing. So she's just like, well, he's going to do whatever he wants to do in the first place. So, um, but they were like, this is your decision.
right,
We're not, we're
right,
not paying for,
right. We're not going to
for
fund it.
grad school. This
Yeah,
is on you. So I wasn't getting help from them. They were saying, if you're going to do this, you have to find your own path. And it's actually, my parents are a tremendous. They're both music teachers, elementary school music teachers,
mm,
but exposed us. I mean, I'm so fortunate to have two individuals who we traveled the world.
mm,
We had um, uh, access to the city. We would go to see musicals and plays and art and museums, and really fostered a a great platform and a great foundation for me to do whatever I want to do, and believing that no matter what decision I make, it was going to be a sound decision. It may seem crazy, but if I have a plan about it, then you have a plan. So they said, well, if that's your plan, go for it. And so in about 6 years, I built up my debt, my 10 credit cards, and I had a debt of about $55,000 to $60,000 at the peak.
Mm.
Now, my credit was great because they had taught me early on, as long as you pay things on time, as long as you pay things on time and keep it moving,
Yeah.
they can't get you. If you default on loan, that's when it goes down. So I was, robbing Peter to pay Paul. I was like, here, go
Oh,
first
yeah.
card. There you go. At Capital One, you ready? Like I was slinging it back and forth, and I was burning like $6,000 a year in finance charges
Wow.
and writing rent checks with credit cards, with a credit card, with the financing. So it was harrowing. And I remember I used to videotape myself every night from my journey. And one day I want to compile all of them. But when I was 27, 28, 29 years old, I remember lying in my bed in my apartment, and I had a big board up on the wall with all my bills, all my due dates of when my bills were going to come up. And I had like $10, $15 in my bank account. And I was like, and I said to myself, it's a struggle. I said, it's a real struggle right now, but I'm getting things, and I'm trying to believe in myself. And I watch it every now and then to go, wow, like look where you were, and like
Yeah.
look where you got to eventually.
Yeah.
And I got a movie. I got my SAG card early, which was good. I did a little show, and then I did a movie. Blank Man was my first movie with Damon Wayans, and then I got to do this, as long as I built, and then I started doing stand-up comedy as well, because I wasn't a normal joke teller, but I could do characters, because that's how I do. My high school yearbook says scenes we'd like to see Chris imitating himself. So I mean, it feeds right into me being an actor, because I liked being in different characters and doing different roles. And I started doing stand up, and I would do roles in my different characters in my stand up, and things that you could not do today. Things that you could not do today. Not very un-PC
From a political
things. We
correctness
won't
standpoint.
even get into that, so people
Yeah.
won't look for it. But
Yeah, exactly.
it was so I started doing that, and then there was an audition for a sketch comedy show called Hype, which is on the WB network, which is now defunct, the WB network, and they were looking for sketch comedy people, and I did the Groundlings as well. I did training in the Groundlings, which is an improv troupe that's got Will Ferrell, Sherry O'Terry, and Maya Rudolph was in my class. So
Right.
when I did stand up, and I auditioned for this show called Hype, and I did these characters, and I got the show. Now we did 17 episodes. I was 30, 31, 17 episodes at 10 grand a pop, debt gone.
Right.
So that's a
Awesome.
big weight off my shoulders, and I can go, okay, I don't have the debt. But now I have to start working on a career, like getting things going. So I'm basically at square one now with a show behind me and what's next, and no debt. So now I can actually, hopefully use my jobs to pay for my life
Right.
instead of my credit card.
And start putting some of the positive.
Exactly. And I was thinking about going bankrupt, and 29, 30, when you got 60 grand in debt, and you're like, I don't know if it's going to work. Do I apply for bankruptcy? Then you have that stigma for 7 years, and you can't. So I was holding on, by the skin of my teeth, right? Is the skin of my teeth? What is it? Isn't
Yeah.
it the skin of something like that?
By my
Right, my fingernail. Exactly. And
metaphor.
and then Marla Garland, who was the casting director for Hype, knew I could do a rapper, and I did a Mr. P impression on the show. And Curb Your Enthusiasm was auditioning for a gangster rapper. That was all. The name of the character was gangster rapper. You're married to Wanda, and you get a little blurb of the audition, because it's all improv, and you improv with Larry. So Marla Garland is Jeff Garland's wife, and Marla said, "Why don't you look at Chris?" And Jeff's like, "Yeah, we'll bring him in." So that was a challenge for me, because even though I could do an impression, it's all improv, and I'm good with characters. And I was thinking about, how can I build a character that could be believable? Me coming from Chappaqua and Georgetown, being a gangster rapper, you know what I mean? So I was like, okay, what do I have to do? So I grew some scruff. I had fangs. I had gold, platinum, like a grill from the sketch comedy show. They also fitted me with brown contacts because I did impressions on that show. So I had brown contacts. I had this grill in, and I put a wolf right here. Like I call myself the Wolf Man, like WOLFF. Like my last name was Wolf, and now it's called myself the Wolf Man. Ow, like something ridiculous that would be feasible for an act. I mean, for a rapper.
Yeah.
So I called myself the Wolf Man, and I left my house like this, right? I had a wife beater on, and I was, because I had to convince myself that I could do what I need to do. You know what I'm saying? So I left hard. I left hard. I left with a toothpick in my mouth, and I was like, and I went into it, and I remember going into another office before Curb, before the audition room,
Right.
just to see if I could have a visceral effect on someone. And I said, yeah, I'm looking for the office Curb Your Enthusiasm. And the woman looked at me. She's like, yeah, it's down that way. I was like, yeah, all right, thanks. I was like, oh, it's kind of working, you know, like, oh, like I was like, oh, good, Georgetown, you know, like it's kind of working. So I went into the audition in the waiting room, everything. I was the Wolf Man, and I walked in with the confidence of the Wolf Man as a rapper would have, of like, yeah, what's up, how you doing? Like, I don't care about anything. And Jeff knew that I was an actor. But Bob Whitey, the director who was in there, didn't really know, and but he'd worked with my sister, which is interesting. And Larry didn't know I was an actor, so I was like, yeah, what's up, Larry? I said, Larry David, you got two first names, motherfuckers. I like that shit. How would you get that shit? He goes, my dad. I was like, oh, all right, I like your dad. That's cool. So I automatically had a banter with him. You know, I wasn't a huge fan. It was the third season.
Yeah.
So it hadn't really catapulted to iconic status of one of the best TV shows of all time.
Right.
So I didn't have that intimidation factor of like, oh my God, I'm meeting Larry David. Oh,
Right.
it's gonna be, and so I didn't have that. So thank goodness I could just be this Wolfman thing I was gonna do.
Yeah.
And then when I went in there, I tried to be as hard as I could. And the audition, all you get was, you're a gangster rapper at your engagement party and you talk to Larry. That's all I was given. So I walked in there and I kind of incorporated that into whatever. So there's certain points that you have to hit in Curb Your Enthusiasm that they need to go as benchmarks, you know, but anything else in there is fodder for anything. So I said to him, you know, we had an agreement. And I said, you mind, right? The N word.
Yeah.
I said, you mind, and he was like, oh, like how do I respond to that? Because as a rapper, in my mind, that's okay for me to say. And I'm not thinking about the other person's feelings or how it's going to affect them.
Right.
So he was taken aback by that and had to respond to it. And Ghostface Killa, Sticky Fingers, Mike Epps, I think Master P, they all read for the role and they're all legitimate rappers. But as an actor that knew the character, I knew the comedy of what makes Curb Your Enthusiasm funny is that Larry is an ass and he is in control of everything and he does what he wants and he's in control of everything. But if you can create any tension between you and him and then relieve it and then bring it back, he doesn't know if, oh, does he want to kill me or is he my friend? He's my friend. Oh, like when he hits me, he goes, I like that. And he hits me. I said, don't touch me, Mom. And he doesn't know how to react. So the more that I could have that push and pull, that's what makes it funny. So I had the comedy chops or the acumen to know what the show is about.
Right.
And I wrote the rap. So I got the role. And Larry said, is he a good rapper at all? He's like, no, Larry, he's an actor.
Yeah.
So when I got to set, beforehand, they said, okay, you got the role. So what is your character's name? And I was like, I don't know. I got to wear these contacts. I have blue eyes. I'm like, well, I don't wear contacts. So I don't want to wear contacts, but I have to wear at least one because I'm not going to look hard enough.
Right.
So let me take one out. So I only have to wear one. I'll call myself like Krazee-Eyez Killa. Like I put a killer on the end. So, and with K's. some
Okay.
rap. Yeah, okay, Krazee-Eyez Killa. So that's how Krazee-Eyez Killa was born, and they named the episode after me, which was a nice honor. So
Awesome.
I got in there for the first meeting with Larry, and it was the first scene where I'm at my engagement party,
Yeah.
and I'm talking to him, and then I whip out a rap,
Right.
a rap that he was not expecting, because remember, it's all improv. So I said, you were right on Steinfeld, right? He said, Steinfeld, whatever. Like, that's how I would say, because I wouldn't watch Steinfeld as a rapper, but I would heard Steinfeld. But he wants to correct me, tension, but he's like, but he likes me. He's trying to relate to me. I'm trying to relate to him. I said, you a writer, right? So you write your own things. Why don't you help me out with what I'm writing? He's like, oh, okay. And so I read this rap, but if you notice the rap, it feeds into what the episode is about, because I know at the end of the episode, I'm going to come back to confront him for me breaking up with my fiance. So I wrote the rap in anticipation of saying, you think you're going to cross me and mess with my talking all this stuff. I'll kill you. I'll kill you if you do this. And like, what do you think? And he's like, oh, okay. Now he doesn't even realize that that's going to happen later in the episode.
Right.
But I wanted to put that little seed that's going to come back to haunt him, as well as to make more of an impact on the episode.
Yeah.
And still trying to keep that visceral reaction with him as a rapper, but being Chris Williams from Georgetown and Chappaqua, every now and then you want to be like, hey, go Larry, I love your stuff. You're so, Seinfeld. Of course I watched, but trying to keep Krazee-Eyez Killa in check. And then the whole second scene, all I was given was, you're a rapper, you're Krazee-Eyez, and you're giving a tour of the house. Now I know he doesn't like tours, because at the beginning of the episode, I know that he rejects a regular house tour. He hates them. So my goal was, how can I make it the most mundane, and he has to go on it? That makes the tension. That's what makes it. That's what makes it, funny. But and you're my friend, Larry. I'm like, come on, come look at my house. He's not going to say no. So he's against his will saying no, and I say, yeah, this is some floor. Made it some floor. You know what I mean? I said, I got a dining room table. You eat at the dining room table. You know what I'm saying? I got a pool out here, right? I put some water in the pool. Otherwise, it'd be a hole in the ground. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, it's driving him crazy, but he's forced to be in the situation. And then I give him his jacket back. And then we have the third scene, which was about me getting the jacket back.
He thinks you think that he caused your breakup.
Exactly. Right. And he's afraid, and he runs up the stairs, and I'm like, Larry, look, like, where are you? And he's like, I thought we were Kunde La. Now, the word is, people think it's cool de la.
Yeah.
But it's actually CUNDELA apostrophe over the A, which is a ridiculous made up word that Mike Thomas and some people from Georgetown.
Oh, so you made that word up?
We made the word. We made the word up on Virginia Beach or one of
hilarious
something, and we made this word up to see if anybody would start saying this ridiculous word, like people make up dope, fresh, whatever. I was like, we Kunde La. No one, of course, started saying Kunde La, but I was like, ooh, I got something.
Yeah.
So I thought we were Kunde La, and he's like, we're Kunde, like whatever that is, we are that. I'm like, we're Kunde La. It's like, we ain't Kunde La. He's like, no, we are Kunde La. So I used something that was ridiculous. And I remember it being in the episode. There's no audience. I can't tell if Chris as Krazee-Eyez is being hard enough, because I'm not from the streets. I'm from Millwood. Right. I'm not hard, but I'm like, am I? I'm saying, am I hard enough to like? Great. Jeff's like, great. Keep going. Great. Just keep going. I'm like, okay. If you're buying it, I'm gonna sell it. So I'm like, yeah. And it's my hardest. And at one point in the episode, when Larry says, don't listen, he goes, don't listen to her. Remember, she's like, you didn't love her. You didn't treat her with respect. He goes, don't listen to her. And I turned to her as Krazee-Eyez, and I said, shut the fuck up. Which as Krazee-Eyez is totally within character. Shut up. And I, like that. And I called her a B. And she was like, taken aback. And then the cut is like, maybe not so hard,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Back up on
I was like, oh, okay, okay, I'll back it up.
that.
So so yeah, I got the jacket back, and that whole episode was only 3 scenes.
Right.
Launched an incredible amount incredible amount for my career, and that got me a table reading for Dodgeball.
Mm.
And then I, by default, because I kept doing the character over and over again in auditions and stuff like that, I got that role. And then as I just building the career is there's no, as if you want to be a lawyer, you go to college, law school, bar, lawyer, med school, residency, med school, all that kind of stuff. As an actor, there is no linear path whatsoever. So you have to scramble and create and figure out what you can do and how to get to that point. And it's still, no matter what, even now, it's still a challenge to figure out what my path is, because you change as an individual, you change as your look changes. So now I'm playing a father of a 20-something-year-old, which is feasibly possible, even though I don't have kids.
Yeah.
I have to, now I'm playing fathers, now I'm playing dads, now I'm playing, that's a whole new challenge, and how people are seeing me are differently than how they saw me when I was 30 or 40.
Right.
So now, and then I'm in my 50s, you constantly have to adapt and move and shift and morph and change. And, it's always, and even levels of when you're getting to, as an actor, if you're a series regular on something, getting another series regular, or being the star, what number you are on the call sheet, 1, 2, 3, 4, not doing guest stars, turning down work is a whole thing. It's a process. It's still a process. So
Yeah.
it's always evolving, and it's always changing. And I'm excited to see what happens next.
Yeah.
So it's kind of thrilling, but
I mean, obviously, it's especially for television, just the golden age right now. There's so much content
there's so much content.
created,
Yeah.
all these platforms that I'd imagine being an actor right now, there's more auditions than fewer, for sure. Is that
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Well, I mean, there's, yes, there are more auditions for things, but it's watered down a little bit, because now that stars are playing TV, like big names are playing TV, the middle actor, not the middle actor gets pushed down
that's it.
to, they give all the money to the top, and then there's really nothing for anybody else.
All right.
So you get kind of downgraded a little bit, even though it's kind of like the NBA, where you have the Memphis Grizzlies, or the teams, the expansion teams, get, and it waters down the league a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting point. Just on another more relevant, important topic is obviously what's happening right now in the country with the racial injustice and racial inequality, and obviously Hollywood's not immune to this. And just as a Black man, I'd love for you to talk about your perspective on that, and from your career and how you see it in Hollywood today. And what's your thoughts on does Hollywood need to be better, and where do they need to be better?
I think it really starts with exposure to more Black writers, more Black directors, and the most executives are white men. I mean, even for women, it's not, there's not an equality basis. For the female directors are like 3% or something like that in the DGA. So there needs to be more inclusion, and from those people and from executives, there needs to be programs or something where they can have access to different stories. Like we had Wakanda in Black Panther, but that's a made up cartoon kingdom. Yet there were kingdoms in Africa, and you never see a story about, if it's not Egypt, it's not, that's all it is. If it's not Egypt, we don't see Ethiopian or Nigerian kings, or real stories that happened back, in the past. So stories that show more of the diaspora of America. And writers' rooms need to be indicative of what society is like. If, you know, half of the people in the room should be women, you know, if there's, and should be women and should be people of color. And even if you had a whole show and you're writing female characters and it's all male characters, I mean, all male writers, how
Right.
can you really give a perspective? So it works the same thing being a person of color. Like, how can you give what you think is a person's perspective, but you don't really know? And you've seen it. There's been instances when you go, there was obviously nobody in the room that, you know, that would say that's not a good idea.
Right.
So there needs to be a concerted effort to have inclusion of executives making decisions, and making decisions, and not just for, it's for the good of everybody, so everyone can get exposed to different stories. Now, we've seen a multitude of slave stories, and, you know, 12 Years a Slave was an amazing film, and that's all well and good, but we are not just all slave movies. I mean, if you name the top, you know, movies,
Right.
especially for me as a light-skinned Black man,
Yeah.
you know, I don't get to play a lot in the slave movies because they say, oh, they're mostly Black, but there were mixed people and people
Sure.
of different, look, all different types of things. And at one point, 70% of the cowboys in the West were Black.
Wow.
You know, because the expansion, they wanted them to go out first and
Mm.
explore and this, that, and the other, but you only really hear about Lewis and Clark, and you see a Western and cowboys,
John
and it's
Wayne and
not playing, you know, the first 20 or 30 winners of the Kentucky Derby were all Black, were Black riders. So there's stories, and we talked about it before. Like, I have a story about a person in history, Georgetown, even Patrick Healy, you know, was a man of color, and no one really talks about that. And
Mhm.
there's we have such a wealth of information and history and entertainment in our people that need to be showcased.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a concerted effort by people who take it upon themselves to look outside of their comfort zone, because people only want to really stay with things that they know. And if
Right.
and you can't, you can blame them, but you can't really, I can understand why I would hire someone, you know, who went to your school and who looks just like you, and you're, you know, you grew up together, as opposed to someone you don't know and is a different color than you and may give you friction, even though in your mind it could, anyway.
Sure.
So it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And even uh, Black roles. I remember I was recounting. I had a commercial audition. First of all, I had an audition years ago where casting directors. It was for a light-skinned Black man of mixed race, and she said, and I had a tan, and she said, he said, are you African American? I was like, oh yeah, I am. He's like, and I have blue eyes too. He's like, oh, I guess somebody got bopped way back then, huh?
Wow.
I'm, I'm like, excuse, like,
Yeah.
and I was like, really? That, like, that really came out of your mouth?
Wow.
But not even thinking that that's an insulting to me.
Right.
As well as I auditioned for a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial, and I remember coming out of the audition, and one of the other guys was like, "Oh no, shooting the job," and they said, "Just wait," and I said, "What?" Just watch. And I went in there, and they go, okay, so can you dance? Can you do some dancing, some fun dancing? And, you know, the Black person in you know, in the back of my head go, you know, I don't know. I don't think I can do that.
That-
Okay, now we're gonna have everybody act like a chicken. And I was like, wow, this is some really, like, you don't realize the implications that what you're asking me to do that. And because obviously, if there was someone Black in the room, from the advertisers or the clients, or someone would say, I wouldn't necessarily do, that's not a good look for you.
Right. Right.
But if you don't have that, just like with if it was there's no women in the room and they say, oh, whatever. So
Yeah.
there needs to be some sort of inclusion by people, and even though it may be uncomfortable for people, when they say affirmative action, people are against affirmative action, you should get there on your own merit. A lot of times people don't get the opportunity to get in that situation. And I've met people that have never known a Black person before, and they're like, oh, like even friends of mine from high school that know me as Chris, and said, oh, you never experienced racism growing up with us. And I was like, oh, did you not know that my family was the first Black family, and that Sidney Poitier put a down payment on the house in our town and was told not to be there, and people told her that we couldn't afford our house. Neighbors said, we told the sellers, don't sell to them because they can't afford it, but we had the money for it. And being called names, and a girlfriend of mine, her father took away all of her things because I was Black.
Mm.
So even though I'm Chris and I was born there and raised there and seen as Chris, but not as a Black man, I'm seen
Right.
as a Black man in the rest of the world.
Right.
So
Yeah. Well, I think
it's
Hollywood,
a
I think Hollywood, they now need to put their money where their mouth is, because they
exactly
talked about this for many years, and now they have
right.
to do the right thing and what it takes, and it's going to take a concerted effort to make sure they create a more representative group of
And
people.
it's interesting because right now, this would not have happened if we were not in a pandemic.
Right.
I don't think this would not happen if people weren't working,
Mm.
sports, dating, concerts, staying home.
Mm.
Now people are looking at, oh my goodness, like someone did this happened? Like black people have been treated like this, or
Yeah.
wow, I never knew.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of my white friends say to me, is this really, like, we've been talking about it for years, but people are like, really, this is really happening to you? It's like, yeah. Have you experienced this? Yes, I have. Really? I didn't know that that's what happened, because they say it's white privilege, but you don't even realize your privilege sometimes.
Right.
I also make it like you drive if you're white, you're driving an automatic car and you have roll down windows and this and the other. We're going to the same place. But as a Black man, I'm driving a manual. I got to think about the clutch, downshifting, upshifting. We're going to the same place, but I can't eat a burger and just drive like this. I have to, I'm shifting and on the clutch and rolling down my windows like this. And so we're going to the same place, but it's a different vehicle, different experience. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because I think it's obviously important to have the dialogue and for people to understand and listen. So thank you for that. Why don't we finish up by talking about career advice? So obviously you must often have younger folks who want to go into acting and performing, and they look to you for advice. What are some of your kind of key advice pillars for young people?
Go to college. If you're in high school, go to college. As I said,
well, that's important
Georgetown,
here, because not everyone would probably say that, right?
Yeah, because it really gave me education. Like I would not have normally been able to do some of the roles or have the access in my personality.
That worldliness.
The world, right. And there's so many more opportunities for people to do things because you can do it on your own. I encourage people, if they want to be an actor, write your own thing, write a vehicle for yourself, write. Tell your story. No one can tell your story. Everyone's story is different. If you tell your story, I'm actually writing a piece right now about my first week at Georgetown.
Huh.
And that's going to be, that's my hopefully I want to direct it. I'm writing and directing it. And I'm excited but it is about Georgetown and my experience being a Black man in my first week at Georgetown. So for instance, my first week at Georgetown, there was on my RA's door, on our door, Michael Thomas and I were both Black. On our door, my freshman year, first week, it says, hey, Chris, Mike, Jungle Bunnies.
Wow. Holy
right.
shit.
My first week. So I brought it to the RA and I said, did you see this? Hey, Chris, he goes, I was like, no, that's not funny.
Wow.
And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And I remember doing it. So it's an experience. So everyone's story is different. So I encourage people to, if they're going to be going to acting, write. A lot of people, Mike Birbiglia, came out of Georgetown.
Roll, John Mulaney, all these guys.
Yeah, they all write. They're all writers. So I'm also trying to write myself. And you got to believe in yourself. You know, as I said, I funded myself, funding that I have. I know that I can get to the point that I will get to eventually, and not give up. You kind of not give up. And it depends. You can't be in it for the fame, and you can't be in it for the money. You got to be in it for your expression, how you're expressing yourself, and is it a part of you? Performing has always been a part of me. It's in me, and it's how I get to express myself through different things. And the work part, when I get to actually be on set, that's the fun part. It's the job part, the getting the roles, all that kind of stuff. That's the work part.
Yeah.
So be prepared for that. And it's not, as I said, an overnight sensation, overnight success is 8 years, they say, on average. And people give up after a certain amount of time. And I've said my success has really come from, I consider myself successful from my longevity. Because I know many people that have been in the game, and then it fizzles out, and then they have to do something else.
Right.
So it's not the roles that I've done or the heights that I've gotten to, but I feel like the consistency of having
which speaks to your ability to evolve and have that versatility.
You have to evolve.
I'm playing dads. I can credibly do that.
Right.
Maybe other
Evolve
folks
and adapt. Evolve and adapt, and take care of yourself. You really got to take care of you. You really got to take care of yourself. And but even in any profession, you have to be bold. I think being bold and not being afraid to fail, because we're all going to fail. And I've failed miserably in a lot of different instances, but you have to be bold. That's the only way to swing as hard as you can to hit the ball out. You can't do that. You can't hit a home run by doing this. You just can't. It's impossible. You can hit a lot of balls maybe, but it's never going to get out of the infield. You got to swing as hard as you can. And even if you're smaller, if you Jose Altuve and you're 5'8", you got a big bat, you got to swing that bat as hard as you can, even though they cheated. But
I was going to bring up
I'm Yankee fans.
I was going to bring up Dustin Pedroia because I'm a Boston fan and they cheated.
Exactly. But you got to swing for the fences, and be bold, and create your own story. Create your own story.
Great. That's great.
And people will follow that. If you go off, if you're a comedian, for instance, or something, someone is going to get you. Don't worry about if no one's getting you right now. Larry David, no one got Larry David. No one got Larry David. He was a stand-up. He was a writer. No one got Larry David until Larry David wrote something for himself. He wrote Seinfeld, very successful. Even though that was him, no one knew Larry David from Seinfeld. They know Jerry Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. But when he started doing, even though it took him till he was, 50, I guess? Or I don't even know how old he was when he started. But now Larry David is Larry David, and everyone knows him as Larry David from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Right.
So no matter what age you are, you always have to evolve and adapt, and someone will like it. If you're laughing at it, someone's going to laugh at it. So
great. Chris, awesome. Thank you. This has been a blast, and I knew it would be. You did not disappoint. And thanks for sharing your story and your thoughts and advice and insights. And good luck with the auditioning and with the production world out there. It'll come back at some point. It's going to be patient.
Yes, indeed. Thanks so much, Richard. I really appreciate you having me.
Hoya Saxon.
Okay, exactly.
Right. Take care.
Remember, whoosh, whoosh, right?
Whoosh.
At the end of the whoosh.
I want you to get paid for that. We got to figure that out. See you, buddy.
Thanks.
Take care.